CS greetings, CS goers. It is I, Extremes, and I'm speaking to you from the Red Cherry Studios where we have ESL Africa. And I actually want to talk about ESL Africa just a little bit, not to advertise it or anything like that, but more to zero in on the end game of all of this, which is the top two in South Africa facing off against the top two in North Africa. And I think that's a particularly important thing because as South Africans, we want to be the best in Africa. If you're a North African fan, you want your team to be the best in Africa, whether you're from Algeria, Morocco, Egypt, Tunisia, wherever it may be. The problem for us in Africa is that the routing of internet traffic is just not as good as it could be. So we're always in this sort of situation where if we're going to play against an Egyptian team as a South African team, we're going to play at 200 ping. That happened in the World Championship last year, the EFRAG event, where we played with 200 ping and very narrowly lost, and we won pretty emphatically against some other guys with 200 ping. And that was a mixture of the Carbon and Bravado lineup from then. So they had every chance of winning if they were playing on equal ping. They were the best players we probably had to actually put out as South Africa, but we weren't on a level playing field. Well, the fact is, at the end of all of this, in 6 weeks' time at Rage, it's the top two from South Africa versus the top two from North Africa, and we're going to actually find in a LAN environment at equal ping exactly who the best in Africa is. And I think that's really significant. As South African teams, particularly thinking about Bravado or Energy in previous years, when we've gone overseas, we've generally not quite met the expectations that maybe some of the fans have had. So we tend to think of ourselves as the best. I mean, no matter where you're born, you always think of your country as being the best at something. You want to have some national pride, and I think as South Africans we want to have national pride in our teams going overseas and potentially doing well. The problem is that they haven't always done as well as we would have hoped. And part of that I think is maybe sometimes, well, something that concerns me a little bit, shall I say, is when I thought about it, maybe North Africans look at South Africa and go, well, hey, we get the opportunities, but they're actually better potentially. I mean, a lot of them do have experience playing in WSG and ESWC and the World Championship, and they've actually arguably done better than us. So then, why does Bravado get to play at the major in DreamHack Winter 2014, for instance? Maybe you could look at it like that as a North African fan. The problem is we've never had an undisputed African champion. So when you go over, there isn't really a weight of expectation. Nobody expects you to do well, and when we do well, it's kind of like a little bit of a surprise, and then we lose to a tier 2 opponent or somebody that's a little better than our level, which is probably more maybe tier 3. I think we have good enough players in South Africa to potentially challenge on the world stage. The problem is we don't get the consistent competition. Now with something like ESL Africa, if it keeps going for several seasons into the future, it means that we're going to have a consistent competition against other African teams, and if we can establish ourselves as South Africa as the best in Africa, whether it be Bravado or Energy or Big Five or whoever it is, it's going to make a major difference to our confidence going overseas, because we've gotten to play against guys who've had similar opportunities to us and have actually done maybe a little bit better at events like WESG, for instance. So I think it's landmark. It's an amazing thing that we get to decide the undisputed winner in Africa, and we get to go over when we go to WESG, which has just been announced, or we go over to ESWC whenever it is that it actually does happen. We'll be able to go like, hey, we're Bravado or Energy, and we wear the badge as the best in Africa. Fear us just a little bit. I don't think that's necessarily gonna make opponents afraid of us or anything, but at least it's something we can check off and say, hey, for national pride's sake, we're the best in our region, in our continent, and we had to represent it. And I think also that'll draw a little bit more interest to the team, maybe from traditional news media as well, whoever the team might be. It just adds an extra string to the bow, an extra thing on your CV that means something, because it is worth a lot of money in South Africa as well. So there's the resources that you get out of it from winning it. But overall, I think the most important factor here is, as a geographically isolated country that doesn't get to play other countries, it's a massive step towards us improving and maybe the continent improving, because look at a sport like rugby. I'm very familiar with rugby. If we didn't play in the rugby championship with Argentina, the All Blacks and Australia, we wouldn't be nearly at the level we are. And I know we haven't done so well in the last year or two, but historically and in recent history, South Africa has been right up there with them. So, and the reason is because we get to play against the best in the world. in South African Counter-Strike and South African esports in general, we really struggle because of ping. 200 ping to other African countries, 200 ping to Europe. Routing in Africa is not good. So if this ESL Africa thing can become a consistent thing and we can continue to compete against our neighboring countries, it's just going to mean more improvement for our continent and more improvement for South Africa. And again, having the badge saying we're the best in Africa should mean something, because we've always fallen at the hurdle of the North African teams. Not always. I mean, Battlefield, for instance, we've done really well with high ping, but in general, it's been a stumbling block. Maybe in future with what companies like Liquid Telecoms are doing in terms of internet infrastructure in Africa, maybe we can play on like a server in Kenya or something. I don't know if you guys have seen, but Kenyan players actually play on South African servers at 60 ping, which is insane. So things will improve in the coming years, but for now, ESL Africa is the only way we get to measure ourselves against the other best teams in Africa. And to take that badge and say, hey, we're the best in Africa, we're here at WSG or ESWC or whatever the event may be. Maybe it's another ESEA event, maybe Bravado or Energy get invited to a DreamHack Masters tournament or something like that. It means something to be the best in Africa, and I think it's a really exciting thing that we get this opportunity, and I really hope that Kwese and ESL keep it going, that we have multiple seasons, multiple opportunities to prove ourselves against the best in Africa. And of course, maybe they've got the opportunity to knock us over too. If you're a North African fan, pretty much everything I've said, barring I guess the rugby analogies, probably apply to you as well. You want your teams to improve. The difference is in North Africa, of course, those guys get to play on European servers against European opponents. That's probably why their aim looks so good. We don't know quite how good they are just yet, but we will find out quite soon. And of course, tonight is the big game, Limitless.gg versus Vibera, which is probably the two best teams in North Africa from what we've seen. So we're going to really see who's the best there. And in 6 weeks' time, we're going to find out who's the best in Africa. And I think that's a significant thing. We should be excited about it. I'm certainly really excited about it, and excited to see how it's going to turn out and to get to Rage. Rage can't come soon enough. So thanks guys for watching. This is Axe saying check out ESL Africa, and check out, I'm going to try and do more videos. I've been a bit quiet lately, so I do apologize for that. I'll try and put more out. Check you around. Axe out.